Welcome to my humble abode. Well, it's definitely different compared to the jail cell you were in last time I saw you. Speaking of, right, I was gonna tell you about everything that's happened while you were gone. Oh, here's some food, by the way. A can? Trust me and just drink it. Huh, it's pretty good. Anyways, when I returned, YouTube obviously wasn't happy with me. They basically wanted my head on a silver platter for the stunt you and I pulled. I managed to stay safe though. How? You remember that rumor about a resistance I told you about? Turns out it was real, with some of my friends being a part of it too. They were surprised to see me alive. I told them everything about what happened with me and you. They didn't believe me, not that I really blame them. I think they were just a lot more happy to see me. Anyways, we worked on getting everyone out of those cells. We hacked YouTube systems and everything started shutting down. Who would have thought it'd be so easy to abuse their security systems? Yeah, they should get on that. The revolution spread rapidly around the world. A ton of underground videos were made about the harsh rules and living conditions we were put under. About a month later, Disney pretty much had no choice but to meet people's demands. And now, not only is the stuff for content creators a lot less slave-like, but Disney's been backing out of controlling properties too. Though that second part has only gone slowly so far. It's finally the end of the DT era. That was the Disney takeover era, right? Yep. So, Frozen. Oh, I don't go by Frozen anymore. Wait, what? Why? After what YouTube did to not only me, but everyone, I wanted to move past that. To do that, I wanted to quit being a YouTuber, but my identity being a constant reminder of the torture I went through didn't really help much. So I had a name change. Okay, I can't really blame you for not wanting to feel trapped and taking orders from everyone. Always taking orders. I will say this one more time because I won't be able to say it for very long. Avatar: The Last Airbender is one of the best cartoons, if not the best cartoon, ever made. The third season concluded the series with one of the best redemption arcs ever, great development among the entire cast, and awesome fights throughout. It also alluded to another season at the end of the show, but a certain piece of media, that will not be mentioned today, caused that to not happen. What sucks is that I actually have to talk about that at some point too. Anyways, the trilogy of Avatar wouldn't be complete without the Fire book, and the games are no exception to this. In the past, I viewed the Avatar games overall as being pretty mediocre, honestly. There were some good things here and some bad things there. I'd like to hope that this game ends up being different than the others, especially with this game being based off of what the community claims to be the best season from what I've seen online. However, I did get my hopes up in the past with basically all of the Avatar games so far, and they didn't exactly turn out too well either. But enough rambling, since that's not going to get me anywhere. Today, I'll be going over Avatar: The Last Airbender Into the Inferno, in hopes that this game has improved greatly over the others. This game goes through the events of its corresponding season, and that would be Season 3. It does also have the same situation the Burning Earth had, of adding in an extra character for some events that normally don't have said characters because of gameplay reasons, but that's not the main problem this time. Unfortunately, its similarities don't stop there, as this game also skips over and very briefly mentions certain events, but is even worse in this game as it doesn't use some major events for levels, and makes this game even shorter than the Burning Earth was, which brought the runtime from 5 hours last time to 2.5 hours this time. The events that get briefly mentioned or skipped over are as follows. The fact that the gang has to get Fire Nation closed, Aang's hallucinations due to constant training and no rest, bloodbending, one of the most traumatizing events to Katara, the giant lion turtle, Zuko turning into a good guy, Aang and Zuko having to learn/relearn firebending, the field trip between Katara and Zuko. They skipped over a lot of events involving Zuko for some reason. Also, one of the events is majorly out of order, with the gang first meeting Combustion Man after the boiling rock at the Western Air Temple, which doesn't make sense because they first meet him before the Day of Black Sun, and the Combustion Man fight at the West Air Temple happens before the boiling rock in the show. They also have Aang and Zuko go into the temple and look for the Chamber of Elements, which didn't happen at all if I remember correctly. A bunch of important events that really should be looked at more don't seem like they have importance, and the thing with Combustion Man makes the entirety of Season 3 feel a lot more jumbled up. The incredible shortness of playtime compared to the previous games doesn't help either, as it has to scrunch up all of this story into such a short amount of time, and when you squeeze a large, eventful story into a much shorter time span, a lot of quality is more than likely to be left out, which is very upsetting for the amazing story that Avatar has. I don't really know how, but they managed to make the story suck. For Avatar. This game starts off with a previously on Avatar, just like the show itself does, and it was very nice to see this, as I wish that the Burning Earth did this. Speaking of which, this game also does the same book/chapter loading screen thing that the Burning Earth did, but it doesn't have the chapter part, which is disappointing, and it's probably because the chapters are switched around a bit when it comes to this game. Can't have one without the other, unfortunately. One thing that I will give this game props for is that this game animation and art style wise are the best out of the trilogy. There's no inconsistencies in animation quality compared to Burning Earth, and the art style brought over does look better alongside that. Then again, I did play this on Wii, where last time I played it on PS2, so it was probably just because of that, but again, it still does look better. As far as the music goes, if you've seen Avatar and or played the games up until this point, there's not much to really expect. You get the music, and you recognize it as Avatar music. Not really much to add to that. For voice actors, again, not much has really changed. Every character who's featured in this game has the same voice actors from the show, and I think this is one of those series that will basically always have that, since it's been like that the entire time. The segments where things are explained quickly, though they are pretty stagnant and not very interesting to look at, they are quick and to the point, so they're over with fast. Plus, I think it's supposed to be a way to use Appa flying around as a way for characters to talk to each other, which is smart as the show does this too, and I definitely prefer this over the lower quality cutscenes the last game gave, but it's also a little bit lazy because again, there's not more levels, but whatever, again, I'm being redundant. Also, using Momo as a way to represent the sleep-deprived Aang episode as tutorial stuff, again, on one hand is clever, but on the other, I would have liked a level dedicated to that, as the developers probably could have had a lot of fun with making it. Other than that, this game in my opinion has the best presentation out of all of the Avatar games so far. Then again, given the previous games, that's not exactly saying much. In every level, you are able to play as two characters similar to the Burning Earth. However, this time, both characters don't appear on screen unless you're playing in co-op. While proceeding through, you'll be solving puzzles and beating enemies utilizing melee attacks and bending. There's also two air attacks, one which hits a single enemy, and another which hits everywhere around you. All bending can be used as an attack, but they also come with other functions. Airbending sends out a ball of air, which can remove dust and smoke from areas, and can be used on any instrument that requires wind to play, or put into air ducts to push objects. Waterbending allows you to transport bodies of water from container to container, put out fires, create ice ledges along waterfalls, and ice pillars on flat bodies of water, and ice blocks which if it hits an enemy will freeze them in place, allowing you to do more damage to them. Using said ice block on pipes will freeze them shut, which opens the way for you to go. Earthbending can be done to raise or lower rock pillars on certain parts of the ground, which you can also climb on top of if needed. Breaking these is also possible, which gives some rocks to use for attacks. There's also rock ledges that can be made, but can only be done on the side of cliffs. Earthbenders also have the ability to metal bend, and by earthbenders I mean just Toph, she's the only one, which can destroy anything made of metal, such as giant crossbows and particular doors. Firebending can be used to melt down doors and burn trees. Fire can also be put in certain places like torches or furnaces. Oh right, Sokka can't bend. He can throw his boomerang to stun enemies and deal massive damage to them. And that's basically it, there's not much to Sokka. Throughout each level, you'll get coins by defeating enemies and breaking objects. There are also 3 scrolls that you can collect in levels by looking for secret areas and interacting with particular objects in some way. On Ember Island, you can do some gliding along an archipelago. That's a group of islands in case you don't know that. While gliding, you can boost to make yourself go faster and shoot balls of air. That might sound far-fetched, but considering Aang can do push-ups with only his breath, I don't doubt that he has the ability to do this either. These two abilities are useful for boost racing, which requires you to fly through sets of rings before time runs out, and target shooting, where you need to shoot at different colored Fire Nation targets to get as high a score as possible. There's also free flight, where you can fly around the islands collecting money, and there's even a set of scrolls here as well. At the end of every level, aside from boss fights, a result screen shows up telling you how much money you've earned in that level, as well as how many of the scrolls you collected. Finding all 3 of the scrolls grants you a bonus art. There are also certain tasks that you can do, such as getting at least a specific amount of money in a level, having a fast time, or having a high enough score to unlock another piece of bonus art and or an upgrade. The upgrades that you unlock and character profiles can be purchased at a shop on Ember Island. The upgrades are things like increased health, increased damage, and more moves for bending. You are able to turn these upgrades on or off whenever you like, and use cheats to unlock certain things in the Ember Island lockers. This game does seem to have more emphasis on using bending for environments than the previous games, which is something that I always have an interest in. Seeing special abilities used in ways that aren't just combat are something that I always like seeing. Some environments also have you think a bit to get around certain obstacles that require bending, such as needing to get rid of a fan blowing air to be able to do firebending to open a door, breaking something in order for proper arrangements to be made, having certain amounts of water in a container to play specific notes with airbending, etc. The combining of bending for environments is done pretty well and diverse from what the last game provided. Also, this game is nowhere near as glitchy as the previous game, thank goodness that game was a nightmare. However, combat is the worst it's ever been. It seems that with every game, the combat abilities go down more and more, with this game being no different. In the first game, you were able to mix and match between special abilities that the characters were able to do, which led to a bunch of possibilities. In the second game, there weren't that many things that you could do, but there were at least like 3, maybe 5 moves that they could do. Here there's only one melee combo. Only one. Again, at least the Burning Earth, despite getting rid of options, didn't get rid of basically everything. Now it feels like everyone plays basically the exact same. Something that is really annoying to add to this is that characters can't do bending almost whenever they want to. Water and earth bending can be extremely limited, so if you can't do that, then your only option is basically spamming one combo until the end of fights, which happens a lot. Then there's times where you can't get close to enemies and have to use bending. Either way, combat became extremely boring compared to both of the previous games. Sokka is also completely busted as a character compared to every other one, because he can always use his boomerang to stun and instantly kill a lot of enemies in the game. No matter where in the game you are, you can just kill enemies for almost no effort as Sokka. As for everyone else, you'd think that the upgrades would help, but they don't really feel like they changed up the gameplay by much. Aside from one, the rock/ice punch. This allows you to hold a rock or ice block in front of you and punch it forward. And that's it. There's no other bending upgrades for more moves. That is it. And everything else doesn't feel like it helps out. I have even tested this, though unintentionally. I did 2 playthroughs for this game, and the reason why was because I had to get the music for this game, as the soundtrack is not uploaded on YouTube, surprisingly, since every other game was, and I sold my copy of the game before realizing that. So, I got another copy recently to play the game again and get the upgrades. My first playthrough was back in June last year with no upgrades, mainly because there is barely any note of where the upgrades can be gotten aside from one line given. And of course it's in one of those segments that briefly skim through everything, so you might not even notice it, to be honest. And the locations can all look pretty similar, and the popping out icons will stand out over anything else. So that's why I never ended up going to Ember Island. I went through the whole game in 2 hours with no upgrades. Then on my second playthrough, I got everything in the game, and I mean literally everything. Though I had to cheat to get one of the upgrades because it was stupidly expensive and I was not gonna play that long. Now, I want you to guess how long it took to get everything in the game. Go ahead, take a guess. If you answered any of these, you were wrong. It was 3 hours. Getting everything took about 3 hours. Only 1 extra hour. And most of it was just me flying around on the islands. And to be honest, flying around is just okay because everything is done on the same group of islands. This basically means the upgrades of increased damage and bending time, aka more hits from bending, barely helped at all. Upgrades should not be called upgrades if they don't do anything. Oh, also, how could I forget? There's no Avatar state in the game. How could you bring up Avatar: The Last Airbender and not bring up the Avatar state at some point? An iconic thing in the series, and I don't get to do anything with it. Well, actually no, I'm wrong. You do get to do something with the Avatar state. Use the starting menu. That's what you do with it. Maybe I should be grateful about that, considering both the other games have had really poor use of the avatar state in my opinion. And I don't know how they would have gone about it in this game when taking the previous work into consideration. Just maybe I should be grateful, but having it reduced to just being the starting menu? Really? To be honest, I'd rather it just not be in the game at all over doing that. The Wii motion for bending can be weird sometimes. Occasionally the cursor being in front of an object will cause how I'm bending an object to move somewhere I don't want it to, which obviously can affect gameplay whenever bending is provided. Now this is mainly dependent on the environment, and even then it doesn't happen too often. Also, I don't know if this is a PS2 version thing as well. It could be, but I probably just wouldn't like controlling bending at all in the PS2 version to begin with. So for lack of complete information on that, I can't really judge this too harshly. If anyone knows about the PS2 version, then just let me know in the comments below, but otherwise, again, can't really judge it harshly. My goodness, Avatar, I'm sorry for what happened to you. I guess a mediocre trilogy would only be complete if the entire trilogy ended up being mediocre. Sure, the presentation was the best possible, but again, that's not saying much, and every other aspect ended up feeling like an immense downgrade, even more so than before. Sequels are more often used to improve on what the previous games failed at, or to attempt new things in hopes of being better than the previous attempts altogether. This game ends up failing in that regard and even fails at some things that the other games did right. This game unfortunately ended up being a very sour ending to the trilogy of games when instead it could have been great, and it's a big shame too. Again, this entire trilogy of games could have ended up being way better. And for a series like Avatar: The Last Airbender that has been set to such a high standard, I kinda expect something at least close to that, but unfortunately, things didn't turn out that way. What is your new name anyways? Vital. That's a really weird name, and Frozen isn't? Hey, both me and you agreed to that name. Ignoring that, it's actually due to something really important. Remember when I told you about YouTube replacing people with copies? Yeah. Well, due to the revolution, we discovered that Disney was using some kind of technology based around the soul. Are you good? The soul? Like, the spirit and stuff? Yeah? Did you discover something too? Computer and Chaos was talking about that. Who? Oh right, you haven't seen them either since their name changes. Computer was that nanite you saw, and Chaos is the black and white version of me. Or us. Ah. They said it was important for saving all of the dimensions. Well, it's a good thing that a group is researching it called the Soul Observation Unit, Laboratory, and Reminiscence. That is a really long title. We just say Solar for short. It turns out that the people who were replaced were actually kept alive for their souls to be copied and then put into an inorganic body with a controlled mind and heart. At least that's what we've gathered from Disney's notes on it. So everyone's alive? Not everyone, unfortunately. Disney preserved some of the original souls, but now they don't have the original bodies to go with, and Disney called them ghosts. As messed up as it is, I can't deny that it makes sense. Other souls were disposed of. Guess they didn't want to run the risk of something similar to a revolution happening, so they got rid of some bodies and some souls. Wait, how do you know so much about all of this? Well, I'm the leader of Solar, of course. What's going on, my fellow residents? It's me, TheFrozenCavern, and thank you guys for making it to the end of this video. It's been about a month since I uploaded another video. Again, I will try my best to not do what I did at the end of last year because, goodness, that was bad. But regardless, you guys have managed to give me constant support throughout that time, and my sub count is surprisingly still increasing, even with the very stagnated videos. So thank you guys for all the support on the videos that I've done so far. And it's about time that I finished the trilogy of the Avatar: The Last Airbender games. And like I said before, I was planning on doing this review in June or July, but then the OST wasn't on YouTube and I had to rebuy the game at some point, and that took about half a year. But regardless, it's here now. And finally, that game's out of the way. Now, for those of you who are curious, yes, I am going to do the Legend of Korra games, and I will do my best to get those. And I'll even be covering the game that's based off of the movie, because there is one in case some of you didn't know, and yay, that's gonna be a fun experience. But again, I'll be covering the rest of the Avatar games, so don't worry about that. There are still a good amount of Avatar reviews to come. Also, lore for the series is continuing as well. It's been even longer since I've actually added any lore for any of my videos, so finally getting back to doing that is a blessing. And I think you guys will be pretty interested in what will happen in the future when it comes to the lore stuff, but for right now I'll have to leave you guys in the dark about it. But anyways, if you guys have not already, make sure you guys go down into the description below because that's where all of my social medias are located. My Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Discord are all in the description, and they are all ways for you guys to be notified of whenever I upload another video or have an update for the channel. And if you have not already, make sure you like and subscribe for more, as well as share this video out with your friends and family. But until the next video, take care.